Okay, I'm going to give you a tour of the Manatee Skull. And with the marine mammals, everything seems a little bit bizarro. Um, they still have to breathe, so they're not fish, so they're still using lungs. And as we saw in the dolphin modifies all of its bones to move the blowhole hole to the top of the head. If you watch manatees, and this is a manatee skull, you'll see a similar thing, that the nostrils are positioned at the top of the head. What the manatees do to accommodate, though, is they just basically lose well, at least in this skull, there's no nasals at all. And so you have a frontal bone here, and then there's nothing here. This is all just like a great big vacuous space, and so you've got your nasals would be here, right? So yeah, so just like lose the nasals, and so we have frontal bone here, and then you see the frontal bone come around here. This bone here then is the premaxillary bone. And this is an odd way to actually look at the maxillary bone. We're going to flip it over, and you'll get a better idea of what we're looking at. One of the coolest things about manatee is they're one of the very few polyphyodont mammals that we have. We talked about these terms, diphyodont, so you get two sets of teeth normally as a mammal. And polyphyodont are things like sharks that have continuous replacement of teeth. There's only a few mammals that can do that, particularly in a horizontal replacement like this. We could make the case that hypsodonty is continuous replacement of teeth, but that's like continuously growing teeth in things like horses, llamas, things like that. And so we have, in a manatee, we've got teeth coming in from the back and then moving forward and then falling out as they reach the front here. But if you actually look at the tooth, they're very lophodont. So you got this is a great example of a lophodont tooth where the cusps are perpendicular to the tooth row. And as you move to these anterior teeth, these are older teeth, right? So they've been in the skull longer, in the jaw longer, and they're what we call burnished. Burnishing is a term that I learned in pottery class, right, in high school. And when you burnish something, you let that clay get to a certain dryness, and then you take something like the back of a spoon and you rub it vigorously to give it like a really polished look, a really polished shine. So it's the friction of the spoon on the clay that's burnishing that. So this is actually being burnished. It's the friction of the silica in their food, the friction of that's actually burnishing this tooth. So the tooth is being worn down, and then it falls out. Here you can see, so the roots are absorbed, and then it falls out, and then new teeth are coming in from the back. So super cool, super bizarre. If we, I guess, look at this, we've got the occipital condyles and the occipital bone here, the basis sphenoid. If we look down here, we've got a nice clear keel on the vomer bone as well. A really small, this is probably your palatine here. And if we look laterally, we've got the jugal bone coming out. And then when the animal was necropsied, a very specific bone was removed. It wasn't the parietal bone that we've seen on some animals, like the the wolf. It's this bone here, and this bone is probably one of my favorite bones of any mammal. Okay, this is the squamosal bone of a manatee. Okay, and if you're good at puzzles, it would fit right in here. Okay, so there we go. And so when you look at the squamosal of a manatee, it's like, wow, that thing is just monstrous. It's a massive squamosal bone. And what attaches to the squamosal? Those are masseter muscles. So these are huge grinding muscles for lateral jaw movements that you see on the manatee. And so this bone, just out of context, is kind of a good bone to know, just the manatee squamosal bone. I got this from the Marine Mammal Path Lab in Florida. They were getting rid of all of their manatee skulls. They were donating them to the University of Aberdeen in Scotland. What the heck? And so I read about that in the paper, and I'm like, hey, we've got one of the largest teaching collections in the country. Could I get a manatee? They are a CITES 1 animal. They are protected, so I had to write all the permits to get this skull. So it is one of the cooler things we have in the collection. There is the manatee.